Hi, if you're watching this video, then you're probably trying to figure out how the heck to get your partner on board with your birth plan. Maybe you're trying to convince them that you want a home birth and for that to be okay. Maybe it's as simple as trying to hire a midwife over a doctor or hire a doula. Or maybe your plan is you want to go without the epidural and your partner is very resistant to this. Your partner might even be trying to say things like, well, the medical system seems to know better than we do. They have more experience. Are you sure? Maybe we should just follow the doctor's lead and get that induction or that C-section. Whatever it is, let me just tell you, this is something that I have helped a lot of my clients turn around with their partners, and I'm going to share some tips with you. I'm also going to share in this short video the three big mistakes that a lot of moms typically make when they're trying to get their partner on board with their birth plan. And this also ties into a lot of things that I've learned from top relationship coaches, including my dear friend and mentor, Annie Lala. You should check her out. She's amazing. She has an Instagram at LalaBird, and she talks about how to deal with high conflict situations with your partner when you just don't see eye to eye. You're both in love, so it's not category number 5. I'll tell you about that in another time. But the fact is that if the partner is category number 5, it's not a true love relationship. But if it's categories 1 through 4 of why you're not getting the support you need, then ultimately you can change that around. Now, categories number 1 through 4 are basically around the same idea, where your partner either doesn't know enough or they're afraid. So I'm giving you that little secret right now. If you want to know more about that, check out one of my other videos where I talk deeper about the different categories of partners and how to turn it around and understand which category your own partner falls into so that you can turn this whole situation of them saying no to home birth around, or when they say no to you getting a doula, you can turn that around. So do check that out. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to tell you the big 3 mistakes that you're really making. I'm also going to share a quick tip on how to fix it. And then if you want to go deeper with this, I'll talk a little bit about the end about my program, Your Empowered Birth Academy, and how it can help you. I'm also going to share some success stories with you, some positive stories of how I've helped some of my clients whose partners were originally resistant to the idea of home birth, especially since a lot of my clients don't even want a midwife present. They would rather just do it themselves. They're like, I am sick and tired of the medical system controlling my birth. And I am in that boat too. I had that issue where the medical system was really controlling and trying to limit my options. And I had a category number 5 partner, and I was still able to work that to my advantage. So these are powerful tools that I teach inside my program, Your Empowered Birth Academy. And as I said, at the end of this video, I'll tell you more about how to get your hands on that. In the meantime, though, let's just dive in to those big problems that I see, the big mistakes. Okay, so first of all, number 1, the big mistake that I see a lot of moms making when they're trying to get their partner on board is they go into the mom groups and they are asking for information. They are asking for articles. They are asking for books. They are asking for classes and courses and videos that they can show their partner to try to get them trained up to support them. And this leads to what I have called the information overload. Let me be very, very clear about something that I have learned from my dear friend and mentor, Annie Lala, and I've learned this from other relationship coaches as well. And I've been talking to a lot of men. So understanding that the male perspective is different. So if your partner is male, then you need to understand that they don't see things the same way we do. Okay? They don't see it the same way. You are now bombarding them with information, and it is overwhelming. Think about if somebody else just dumped a whole bunch of facts on you. I mean, sometimes this happens when you're in the mom groups, right? You're asking for one thing and suddenly you get like a million different things. And you're like, I don't know what to think. Like, I don't know what to believe. Now, in some of my other videos, I tell you that if you're in the information loop, all you need to do is start trusting yourself. So go check some of those out. They're on my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com/masterclasses. I have a few of them. Or if you're on the YouTube channel, just go and check some of the playlists. I have these videos available for you. If you ever have any questions or you're not sure where to go, because I do give out a lot of information and I give out a lot of tips, and honestly, I'm going to keep doing this. So it's going to be a lot. If you want to be able to sift through that, you can just go and reach out to hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com for our email. And either myself or one of my Empowered Mom ambassadors will help you get the information you need. For all I know, one of those videos could be buried, or you could be watching this way into the future and we have even more. And you're like, well, which video is it? Well, I can't tell you that because I might redo it or I might have more in the future. And what I'm teaching now, I may have something even higher level if you are watching this like 3, 4, 5 years into the future. Right now, I've recorded this in 2024. So if you are in the future, hello, thank you for coming onto the channel. And if you're watching this in 2024, just know there is a lot more that I've got on this subject. So if you have any questions that aren't answered inside this video and you want to know more, just reach out, hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. All right. So what do you do with this information loop? As I said, is like this big mistake you're making is you're bombarding your partner with all these articles and all these books and everything that everybody has told you. And in fact, there's one book in particular that is really good at helping you and getting your partner on board. And I recommend that you read it, not your partner. Because if your partner tries to read it, it is a lot of information. Even when I was reading it myself, because my former partner at the time, like he doesn't read, like I knew this. So I was reading things for him and then regurgitating the information. And even the Cliff Notes version of what I was reading was still overwhelming and he just couldn't pick it up. In addition to that, I also noticed when I talked to my brother and I said, hey, when you want to start having kids, you can always take advantage of all of my knowledge and everything. And he said, no, I'd rather my partner, my wife, go to you and she can get what she needs and then she can tell me. So your partner does not actually want you to bombard them with all of those articles and videos and everything. It's too much. The second problem that you have with this information overload is that even if they do say, all right, feed me all the information, they have a different take on it than you do. This is something that happened with someone I was working with for a little bit, where she had wanted to have a home birth. And she had decided, oh, I'm going to show him the business of being born. And that is going to show him that we don't need to go to the hospital. And he was really on board with that. He was fired up and he's like, yeah, absolutely, you're right. And then the last part of the documentary, a woman shared a story about how she was grateful that she had ended up going and having the C-section in the hospital because like those stories, and she's like, I'm so grateful. And suddenly he shut down because something else wasn't being addressed, which I'm going to get into in this video. But the fact is like you could give them all the information, but two people can take the information and they can get completely different insights and takeaways on it based on where they're at. You have been doing a lot more birth education, especially if you've been following me on empoweringmomsbirth.com or you've been following my YouTube channel. And what you have is not what your partner has. Even if they're watching a few of these videos, they probably haven't binge watched to the point that you have. They don't have your intuition. They aren't in your body. They aren't aware of what's going on. They don't have that baseline information. So even if you're giving them information and you say, oh, yeah, the stillbirth rate is only like 1%, and that's after 42 weeks or whatever it is, and you're saying, oh, yeah, it's not that big of a deal, this risk, they're looking at it in a completely different lens. And they're like, wait, there's a chance that there's a stillbirth. Wait, there's a chance that there's a complication. Wait, there's a chance this can happen. And they're going on a completely different tangent than what you were thinking. Because you're like, oh, it's no big deal. And they're like, wait a minute. And that leads next to another mistake that's being made. And that is the mistake that I'll be telling you after mistake number 2, because it all ties together. You'll find out why I'm going in this order after we're done. But first, I'm going to tell you that mistake number 1 ties into mistake number 3 and mistake number 2. And the reason why the information doesn't work is also because of mistake number 1. And the second one is that even if you've got the information loop and your partner is trying to push back on this because they've got that information because of mistake number 1, you're jading. Now, make sure you check out some of my other videos where I talk about jading a little more. Now, this term is something that I borrowed from another area where I had been studying. You see, I had gotten through a 13-year abusive narcissistic relationship. And at one point, I was gathering information to try to get out of that. I did leave that relationship in 2021. It was awesome. It was easy. I was so surprised. I used my 5 pillars of empowered birth to do it. And by getting out of my fear and leaving that relationship, I've been living my best life ever since. So I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I don't want you to be like, oh, she was in this horrible thing. Yeah. And it gave me a lot of insight into how to work with the medical system and how to work with partners. So even though this horrible thing happened, it allowed me to understand this piece about jading, because I was doing this in my abusive relationship. I would try to justify and be like, okay, I'm justified in what I want. And I would try to argue my case. And I would try to defend myself. And I would try to explain. I would try to point out how his behavior was abusive. I would try to get defensive and defend myself and say, hey, you just said this thing and that's not true about me. I actually do want something, and I'd try to defend it. Or I'd argue back and I'd say, how dare you say that? How dare you? Here's some evidence that shows that you're just as flawed in this as I am. You're not right. And I'd justify, I'd say, I want this because of this, and this is why I should have it. So by doing this in the medical system, what that looks like is when they're trying to say things like, oh, I want you to have an induction, and you try to justify why you shouldn't have it. In the terms of your partner, you're trying to justify why you should have a home birth, which ties into the information overload. You're pulling out articles. You might argue with your partner. How can you say that I have to go to the hospital? Like, don't you care about me at all? Like, don't you understand that if I go back there, I'm going to be traumatized? Like, what the hell? And you're attacking them, basically. And then there's the defensiveness. You're defending yourself. You're automatically putting up your armor, and you're telling them, like, hey, in my defense, I think that this isn't fair, and I'm going to try to stand up for myself on this. But you're coming at it from a combative stance, or you're explaining. You're constantly explaining to them why you should be allowed to do this, instead of doing my magic trick, which I also have taken from my dear friend and mentor, Annie Lala. So I'm going to just give her a shout out. This is not my term. This is hers. It's called going from WTF to MLK. And I go deeper into this system inside my program, Your Empowered Birth Academy, which you can check it out. But basically it goes like this. I have a dream, Martin Luther King, instead of what the fuck. Like, if your partner starts saying things that you know are not true, like they start to get scared And they're saying, well, what if the cord is around the neck? And you're like, what the fuck? Like, seriously, that's not going to happen. Or they say things like, well, I'm scared you're going to bleed out. It's like, that's not going to happen either. Like, seriously, you're just overthinking this and this is ridiculous. And you're shutting them down. You're arguing back. So you're waiting for them to say, well, what if this? And you argue your case and you do it in a way that basically shuts them down. Almost like if it was some child that was trying to say, but mommy, I really want to have ice cream for breakfast. And you're like, I'm going to argue this and point out all the ways that you're bad and wrong on that. No, you want to MLK it, not WTF. So that leads to the last piece. Remember when I said that mistake number 3 and mistake number 2 tie into mistake number 1? So what is mistake number 1? Mistake number 1 is the fact that, first of all, your partner's scared. But if it's a male partner, they don't want to show you that they're scared because they have all these stories. It's like, if I show my vulnerability here, if I show that I'm afraid, then the whole thing falls apart. I'm the hero. So your partner's male, they've grown up with that tough guy idea that the hero is never afraid. And like Batman doesn't get scared, or he's not supposed to, but he totally does. But in that moment of weakness, he rises up. But your partner is like, in that moment, you're telling them, I want this home birth. I want to not do the thing that the medical system wants us to do. Oh, by the way, there's a dragon you're going to have to fight. But, remember the treasure, but there's a dragon you have to fight. And they're like, wait, what? There's a dragon? Oh, yeah, but it's totally fine. Like, you can totally fight this dragon. I'm like, well, wait a minute. How big is this dragon? Like, does this dragon breathe fire? Like, what do you mean there's a dragon? You want me to go and do this thing with this dragon when we can just go and do this other thing that there's no dragon? Like, what the hell? Like, no, I don't want to fight no freaking dragon. Like, imagine that for a minute, okay? So imagine that you are saying, like, as the fairies, okay? If you were in Sleeping Beauty and you're the fairies and you say to Prince Philip, you say, hey, you got to go rescue a princess who's been sleeping. And by the way, there's a dragon. But they don't arm him with anything. Like, they just said, oh, just go fight the dragon. And they didn't give him the sword of truth, and they didn't give him the shield of virtue, and they weren't going to be with him the whole time. How scary is that? That's what you're doing to your partner when you don't use MLK and are instead using WTF. Because WTF is, well, if you love me, you'll fight this dragon. You'll let me do what I want. If you love me, you'll let me do what I want. So why aren't you going and fighting that dragon? Go fight that dragon. No, I don't want to go over there where you think it's safer. I don't like that spot. I want you to go fight that dragon. Why aren't you fighting that dragon? Go fight that dragon. And they're looking at us like, I got nothing to fight the dragon with. Like, seriously. And I can't tell her that because then she's going to think I'm weak. So your partner is freaking out and they won't tell you that they're freaking out. Why? Because if you're doing WTF instead of MLK, that means that you might not be addressing your underlying fears so that you can basically be like, okay, I'm okay no matter what. And they can go and fight this dragon, or they can continue to be scared, but I know they can fight the dragon. And I know the route to get them to fight the dragon. And I know that I can arm them with this sword and I can arm them with this shield. And we've got the fairies. He just doesn't see it yet. Well, MLK is how he can see it. WTF is just fight the dragon. Come on, come get me. Come on, rescue me. Where are you? No, you've got to give them the sword and recognize that they're going to have to come to it on their own and be like, oh, I've got the tools. So here is what needs to happen. This is part of my empowered birth method. This is what makes it so powerful. If you haven't already checked out my starter guide, go and check that out. It's on my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. It also talks about my empowered birth method. And if you're interested, you can go and check out your Empowered Birth Academy. Or, hey, maybe you're a birth worker and you're watching this and you're like, wow, I want to support this more. Again, there's all that information on my starter guide. I put it all out there because I am committed to you having an empowered birth. And I'm committed to birth workers being able to spread the message of empowered birth because I'm tired of the medical system using our partners against us. This is what happened to me. I was trying to plan a home birth. I was doing really well. And then at 35 weeks, my midwife told me my baby was too small, that he wasn't going to tolerate labor very well. I kept fighting. My partner was sort of on board. He was sort of still in that space because he was category number 5. He also just didn't want to be at the hospital because he was category number 5, which is the partner that has his own vested interests that have nothing to do with you at all. It's you kind of, yeah, category number 5 is a big one. If you do have a category number 5 partner, please reach out to me because I know how to pull the mask off of them. I know how to help you to get yourself and your children out of that situation. And you don't have to struggle as a single mom, and you can do it. And you can do it at your level. You don't have to leave right away, and you can survive and you can thrive while you're planning your escape if you have category number 5. If you don't, if you have categories number 1 through 4, MLK works really well. Okay? So here's the thing is that what you need to do is you need to get past your fear, then work on your partner's fear. Once they know they can fight the dragon, then they become your protector against the medical system and the coercion doesn't work. But what happened in this situation is I didn't know any of this in my first birth. So I was told, your baby is not going to tolerate labor well. I knew it was BS. I could tell from my intuition that this was not right. And I kept seeing the holes in their logic. And there was an OB, and he goes in and he looks at my partner and he says, like, I really don't recommend home birth, especially like your baby could die. And he kind of used my partner against me. So that we left that appointment and he's suddenly like, I really don't feel comfortable doing home birth anymore. Can we please just have a hospital birth? I mean, it'll be fine. And I gave in because he was category number 5 and he knew how to undermine my confidence. Now that he had a vested interest and he was scared and he's like, you know what? You're the vessel, and I really don't want my son to be affected by your bad womanly choices that you're making that are like frivolous. Before I was going along with it because awesome, I get to stay home and I get to drink. But now you're putting my progeny at risk and I don't like that. So now I'm going to put my foot down. And I kind of crumbled under the pressure and I compromised. And I'm like, well, if he doesn't want it anymore, then I guess I can't have it. And I guess then we're just going to do this. It took our second baby, when he'd already realized how much of an inconvenience it was for him to be in the hospital, for him to be like, can we just do it ourselves? And then I was able to use my skills to get what I wanted, which was to stay home and not go back to the hospital. And again, I used a lot of that to get out of that relationship. But that's the thing, is even category number 5, you can get out of it. But categories numbers 1 through 4 of why your partner is afraid to fight that dragon, it's very simple. You use MLK and suddenly they feel like the biggest hero and they are willing to fight any dragon. They're like, point me at the dragon, point me at that OB that keeps trying to push you. I'm going to go in with guns blazing, or I'm going to come in with my fiery flaming sword that I've picked up now. And I even added things to it and I got my armor on and I am going to come in and defend you. This is what I train up a lot of my clients to do, is that I work with both the mom and the dad. And one of my clients They were going into a completely volatile medical system. Like we knew that if they went in there, it was not going to be fun. And they had planned an unassisted home birth because they knew what the fight was. And they also had other issues too. It's like, well, if if we have to transfer to the hospital, there's nobody to watch our boys, which means that dad would have to stay home and mom would have to go into that situation alone. Dad was not willing to let her go in alone. He was so protective of her. I could tell that he loved her so fiercely that he would stand in front of any dragon to protect her. I could see that. And as we were working together and I was calming his fears and calming her fears, like she was fierce too. She was a fierce fighter. She was incredibly strong willed. I was so proud of her, even with the fact that she'd had 3 previous C-sections and been screwed over. She'd been binge watching videos, much like what you're watching here. And she's like, I'm ready to do this. Like, they are not pushing me into a C-section. And she was advocating for herself using a lot of the tools that I teach inside Your Empowered Birth Academy and all of my programs. And even at the high coaching levels, like these are the tools. And I'm bringing them to you because they are so powerful. This medical system really wanted to push her into a C-section. And at a point during her labor, she had been laboring for over a day. Things weren't picking up. She just needed more time, but she was starting to get concerned. And I asked her, because I never ever give medical advice and I never ever tell my clients what to do. I believe that they are all their own best experts. And I asked her, I said, what does your intuition tell you right now? She's like, I want to go to the hospital. I want to be assessed and I want to see what's going on. So I'm like, okay. Now her partner was absolutely devastated by this because he's like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen is she's going to get pushed into something and I can't defend her. So that's not what happened though. She managed to hold her ground long enough for her partner to get there. And he came in guns blazing, basically like saying, how dare you? The reason we stayed away from the hospital so long and have been ducking you is because we are sick and tired of this coercion and manipulation. We're not having it. Guess what? They were able to turn things around because he was this strong, powerful protector. She was able to have a vaginal birth after 3 previous C-sections. Now, she did choose to get the epidural because she'd been in a lot of pain. So she chose to call in that medical intervention, and it was her choice. That's the difference. Even with all of that medical pressure, she chose what she felt was most needed for her, and it's an empowering experience. And her partner, the same thing, like they were able to work together as a team, all because she used MLK. We used MLK together in the course of the coaching sessions, and I was doing my magic and showing her. It's like, do you see how much he loves you? Do you see how fierce a stand he is for you? So she could see it, and she was able to inspire him. We were able to do that together as a team, using that method instead of making him bad and wrong. And he stood up as this proud, powerful hero. So now they have a more loving and connected relationship. And they're like, wow, like we did this together. And the fact is that you can do that with your partner. And all it takes is recognizing that you've got to inspire them to fight that dragon. And if you can't inspire them to fight that dragon, they're not going to fight that dragon. And you can't do that by jading them. Can't do that by bombarding them with information because that's just going to overwhelm them. All you're going to be doing is telling them the specs of the dragon. If you're doing information overwhelm, you're talking about the treasure and then you're glossing over the dragon. And maybe if you address the dragon, you're teaching the specs of the dragon, but they're like, whoa, whoa, what do you mean the dragon also has like scales of steel? What do you mean the dragon also like has really, really big wingspan and can fly around the world in 50 seconds? And what do you mean the dragon also has like fire breathing? Like this fire is like wildfire from Game of Thrones, like it never burns out. Like this is like hotter than regular fire. Like you're telling me all these scary things that we're going to have to go against. And like, um, what? And then you hand me a sword and you think that's enough? And it's like, yeah, but the fairies have enchanted the sword. All you have to do is throw the sword and the dragon dies. Oh, okay, let's do it then. Like that's what you want. You want to find those things that are going to move your partner to be like, oh yeah, I can totally fight this dragon. And if you want to know more, if you want to go deeper into this, I do teach these tools inside your Empowered Birth Academy. It's incredibly affordable. If you do have any issues, like if it's like, you know, I happen to be in a very low income, I'm hurting right now, please reach out to hello@empoweringmomsbirth.com. We don't do this for everyone. I'm just going to be clear on that. We go on a needs basis, and we do have a program to allow you to get what you need, and we have a pay it forward system. So please reach out. I am committed to you having an empowered birth. This is part of my legacy, and I want you to have it, and you deserve to have it, whether you're able to work with me directly or not, whether you're able to invest in anything of mine or not, because I've been there. I have been in that point where I couldn't afford anything. I was basically financially depleted. And as I said, I had a category number 5 partner. So I really didn't have the resources, and people were able to help me to get where I needed to be. I was able to get into scholarships for programs that I otherwise would never have been able to afford. So Empowered Birth is here for you. And if you are at the higher levels and you can invest, then recognize that when you invest inside the Empowered Birth community and you do purchase one of my programs, not only are you going to get the help you need, but people who can't invest are still going to also get that help. The proceeds of what I collect from the Empowered Birth Academy and from my book, Your Empowered Birth, and anything else, proceeds do go, first of all, putting food on the table for my kids, and also to help my partner Jenny do the same with her family. However, we also reinvest those profits into other aspects of our overall vision, which if you want to know more about that, it is on the starter guide underneath our philosophy and mission statement, what we're really trying to build. So if you are curious about some of the things that the Empowered Birth label is trying to build right now, currently in 2024, and what we'll probably already have created in the future and moving to other things, you can always go and check out that starter guide, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. That's where you want to check out everything. That's going to tell you more about the Empowered Birth method. You can go and check out your Empowered Birth Academy. It's all on there. We also have a lower level program called Your Empowered Birth Workshop. It does have a component on getting your partner on board, although it's not the full thing. If you want the full package of the Empowered Birth Academy and workshop, we do have a bundle. So you get Academy and you also get workshop. Okay? So at any level that you're at, Empowered Birth is here to help you. Thank you so much for watching. And just one more thing. As I said, I have a philosophy about paying it forward and helping others who are less fortunate than yourself and getting the message out, because that's really it. I can't be everywhere at once. I can't always spread my message everywhere that I need to spread it because I don't know who you know. You might be in a mom community that I'm not in. So if you found value in this video and what I've taught, then please pay it forward. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channels, my social media channels. I have Instagram, I have YouTube. I'll probably have more in the future. It will all be under @EmpoweringMomsBirth or a rendition of that. Empowering Mom's Birth is one of my many labels that I have. You can look up my book, Your Empowered Birth, on Amazon. You can find my name, Carly Bonderud. It's spelled on the book, so just look at the book right now behind me. That's how you spell my name. and find me on Google. I've got information everywhere. I don't just teach about birth either. So my 5 pillars are very versatile. One of the things you need to understand is that when you have an empowered birth, you're an empowered mom for life, and no one can take your power away from you again. So when you learn this powerful MLK method, when you understand how to support your partner and get them to fight the dragons for you and step up into their power, their potential, everything you've seen in them that you're like, you know what, you are magnificent. You could be even more magnificent. You will be able to have those skills to have a more connected relationship with your partner. And if they're category number 5 and you're stuck in the trauma bond and you're like, this is all I've ever known, this is all I can ever get, and I don't know about getting anything better, those same tools can help you pull the mask off, get out of that trauma bond and that feeling of attachment that you have to this person who is not right for you, because your prince is out there. He is out there and you will find him. But as long as you stay with the one that is pretending to be your prince, you're not going to find him because you're staying stuck. So if you do have category number 5, I'm just going to tell you, eventually you do need to get out. Because if you stay in that, your dreams die, your children see things that they really shouldn't see. And it's just the longer you stay in that, the more your light dies out. Trust me on this one, because I went through it. And if you don't have category number 5 and you have categories number 1 through 4, then let me just tell you how beautiful and transformative and connected the relationships are of my clients with their partners after using these tools and these methods and being able to do that. And I also have a whole lot more on relationships. So just reach out to me because Annie Lala is just amazing. And I just have to give out the shout out to her for teaching me that MLK method and teaching me about true love and how to have those tools to get a deeper and more connected and conscious relationship with your partner, because this is what allows you to transform your family. And then your partner becomes a better dad and he's going to be doing more for you and serving you. And it's just going to be, well, mama, you deserve it. You deserve to be able to be treated like a queen. And you are the relationship leader and the leader of your family, and getting your children to their highest potential and your partner to their highest potential. So by you becoming the birth visionary, you'll also learn how to be the visionary for life. You'll learn how to get them to fight their dragons, including getting your kids to fight their dragons, and you're all going to have that ultimate treasure in the end. So, as I said, when you're an empowered mom, you're an empowered mom for life. No one can take your power away from you again. This isn't just about birth. And this is totally where it starts. So, go to my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com/start guide. If you're already on the website watching this in the master classes, then make sure you go and check out the True Natural Birth Guide in the menu, because that is the start guide. And happy empowered birth journey. I'll talk to you soon.